Hello, everyone, and welcome to Awards Buzz Golden Globe Predictions. I'm Abe Friedtanzer,
I'm Shadan Larki.
I'm Scott Menzel.
I'm Sari Cohen.
and we are thrilled to be here talking about the Golden Globes, an organization that famously gives awards for comedy musical and drama separately, which this year is creating some fascinating and perplexing category confusion. Where we have a number of films, some of which are in fact musicals, and some which might be comedies a la, The Bear or Barry. And we're going to see what happens with all that. So we'll get started with that best motion picture, musical, or comedy, as I think the official title is. Um, there are six nominees in every category, let's remember. So I think at the top of the list we have Honora, Emilia Perez, Wicked, A Real Pain, and the last two I'm not as sure about, but I have Saturday Night and The Substance.
Yeah.
Anyone else have something else on their list as a likely or some alternates?
I
Um,
would throw in Hitman. What would you throw in?
Mm, Um, I- you know, I feel like my feeling is that Wicked's gonna take everything. I mean, do I need to
Abe,
throw anything else in? I feel
Not
like
really.
Abe,
yeah.
did you mention Challengers?
That is my alternate slot. I really
Oh,
don't know
gotcha.
because I feel like some people really loved that, but there are only six nominees, and I feel like right now people are talking about The Substance. They're not talking about Challengers as much. Maybe that's wrong.
An alternate that I would also consider is Thelma. I feel like people have been talking about that movie for a long time and they've been everywhere and people love June Squibb, so I could see that showing up here.
I would love to
And
see her get the nomination. I know we talked about that a little bit in our last predictions, but yeah.
I think she's more likely than the film, but on the same lines, I think
Yeah.
Night Bitch, same thing that, Amy Adams is probably likely. The film could follow. I would be very happy to see The Fall Guy. I'm sad that that's not more of a, thing there. And the other one that I'm very excited about, which I don't think has any chance, is a lovely film called My Old Ass. But I'm none too
Oh,
optimistic about its inclusion.
oh, yeah. I don't think you're right. I'm not so optimistic about it either, but also a sentimental favorite for sure.
I love that movie too. I really wish it. I don't know. I think it goes back to what we were talking about on the last stream, and that is just a studio having too many movies and they can't just push them all the same. So, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I'll
You
just
don't think you
mention
don't
before.
think Deadpool and Wolverine is gonna get a name?
Uh,
Or is that the blockbuster category? The blockbuster.
I think that would be yes, I think that would be
Well,
the blockbuster category.
spoiler alert for our next category, which is comedy musical actor. I have Jesse Eisenberg, Glenn Powell, Sebastian Stan for A Different Man, Michael Keaton, Gabriel LaBelle, and then for my sixth slot, I put in Hugh Grant for Heretic because I love that movie, but I think Ryan Reynolds could very well show up. And in fact, Ryan Reynolds would probably be a smarter choice, but I'm just picking Hugh Grant because I love Hugh Grant. So.
People are doing a lot of talking about his performance in this, so it wouldn't surprise me if if he came through for this.
I do think it's possible. I want to note that
Yeah.
Sebastian Stan, A Different Man, which also could be competing for Best Picture, is a comedy, and The Apprentice is a drama, which you could easily flip them and say the other way around. But he's not competing against himself, which of course the Golden Globes famously have done. Tim Robbins beat himself for Best Actor in 1992 for The Player over Bob Roberts, so it's definitely possible to do that. Did you say Joaquin Phoenix?
I don't have Joaquin, no.
So I don't know, but I feel like that's probably likely that that could be the lone nomination that Joker fully under gets. I also think Jesse Plemons got a lot of good buzz for Kinds of Kindness earlier on at festivals. I think it's hard to sort of quantify a film that's, segmented into vignettes like that. So I'm not really sure, but I think he's definitely a possibility.
No, but did you say Shadan? Did you say Michael Keaton for Beetlejuice?
I did, yeah. I
Yeah,
think,
I can
yeah.
see that happening. I can see that happening.
which we also should have mentioned for
Mhm.
Best Picture. This category is crazy.
Yeah.
We also have Better Man, which every time I see it, I'm like, I thought it was a different man. There's too many movies with similar names, and that's could definitely be. I mean, we have musicals could definitely be popular here, and even though the picture category is full of musicals, the actor one isn't as much. And so it's possible that they might really go for more of those. But I feel like comedy actor is not the most, open category. Or it is an open category. It's not like it's not the most set.
Mm.
To be honest, the only two people that I feel confident in, like, is Jesse Eisenberg and Glenn Powell. Like, I feel like there
Yeah.
could any other combination could easily show up, and I would not be surprised.
Sure. Sure. And then we have the very not competitive best actress race.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Which okay, so my pick on this, I am so torn on this category that I actually only came up with 5 people. I think Demi Moore is getting this in this category.
Mm.
Mikey Madison, Carla, Cynthia Erivo, Amy Adams, and then who knows for that 6th slot. What do you got?
Squib.
June Squibb. That's likely. That's
Z-
likely. For
Zendaya. I have Zendaya actually at number
Mm.
5. I feel like she seems like an obvious name check for the Globes. Like, she has the glamour, she has that, like,
Mm,
you know, yeah.
all right, I'm gonna take your opinion, Shadan, there, and I'm gonna agree with it, and I'm gonna put her in my 6th slot. I think you're right.
And let's not count out Emily Blunt for the Fall Guy because one, she
Mm.
deserved it a lot, and two, we all remember her Golden Globe nomination for salmon fishing in the Yemen.
Oh
So
yes.
it is very, I think she has a certain appeal to people. And despite her Oscar history being very poor, she was the non-double nominee for Mary Poppins Returns and A Quiet Place.
Mm.
I think that Golden Globe voters do like her more. I also have it's Adria Arjona from Hitman. I don't know how you say
Mm,
my pronunciation is poor, but her performance is not. And if they really like Hitman, that would be a fun thing. Because also I think she's considered a lead actress, even though some might say she's supporting.
yep.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, not that I would personally nominate, but what about, like, Anyone But You? Like, is Sydney Sweeney an outside shot for
that's
That's
from
comedy?
last
last
year.
year.
Oh, okay, never mind then.
But the correct thing is that they unfortunately didn't think it was going to be well received, so they didn't campaign it at all. I think it could have done very well if they had tried. But I don't even know if it screened in time for voters last
It
year.
didn't.
Mm.
It didn't.
Right. So you heard it here first. Could have been a big
Interesting.
winner.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see Cynthia Erivo walking away with this award this year. Again, that's my feeling. I think Wicked is gonna dominate. Yeah.
I think having Wicked versus Honora will be a helpful gauge in some ways. That said, Birdman didn't win Best Picture. It lost to, I believe, to Grand Budapest Hotel at the Golden Globes. So you never really know what that means. I think if Honora wins and Wicked loses, that's bad news for Wicked. But I
Yeah.
don't think that's going to happen
Yeah, I don't
because
either.
Honora has its detractors and Wicked doesn't seem to. So that's an important, differentiation.
And
Hmm.
I also just think that it goes back to what we were talking about also on the previous stream is that in a time right now, you're going to walk out of that movie feeling hopeful. And if you look at, I know it's not the Globes, but I'm going to go to the Oscars the last 2 years between Everything Everywhere and Oppenheimer. The two movies were both box office successes, where Anora kind of opened in limited release. It was kind of successful, but as it expanded wide, not as many people are talking about it, and now it's starting to have its detractors. So I think the iron is hot right now for Wicked, and for Golden Globes, it just seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Terry, do you want to move us over to the somewhat less interesting but still compelling drama?
Oh, drama. Okay, let's see. Okay, my pick for this, I would say I think Gladiator 2 is gonna get the nom. I think Dune Part 2, The Brutalist, Concave, I think a complete unknown, while it remains a complete unknown, is if it has the time to pick up some speed, has the potential to be in there. And in my top spot, I actually have Nickel Boys. Yeah, I think
I love that.
I think that I mean, certainly like the director, the camera, the way that things were done, I think is very different than anything we've seen before. So I think it has a very, just for that alone, apart from the performances, of course, I think that has a very, a good chance at taking best drama.
I think
I
it's
have
oh, go for it.
I was just gonna
Um,
say I have Blitz because it just
Yep.
seems like a Globesy pick. And then I don't have room for Sing Sing, but if I did, I would find so like I think that should be in people's minds, obviously. But I think that's like gonna be on the cutoff and not in the top six, but could potentially surprise.
Mhm.
But I just Blitz feels very Globesy to me, so I expect that to do very well.
I don't know. I mean, I'm so torn with this category here because it seems like the lesser interesting out of the two. Because I think it's just like there's so much more in the comedy and musical that, kind of can go either way just based on what the slot was. Like, I feel they're gonna get bit in the ass for the Honora putting that in comedy. I
Mhm.
really kind of feel like if they put it in drama, I think it would have had a better chance. So I think that's the case with that. Um, I don't know. I mean, Nickel Boys is really starting, and you can tell like Amazon's really starting to push that now. So that might really, I kind of agree with Siri. I think that's really starting to pick up steam. The one thing that I will say about that movie is that I am hearing a lot of love-hate from people. Like, again, not people socially on social media, because I think people around this time of year, and especially in our space, kind of get a little gun shy and actually in sharing what they think of movies. But I have heard a couple people over the last couple of days text me and was like, I saw that. I was a little pretentious. It was a little long. Um, and I can kind of see like that being a detractor as well. Um, my question is, will a movie like Furiosa get in here, considering it's more of a Globesy kind of pick, you know? I don't know. That's something, and I know a lot of people like Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth got a lot of talk for the performances. And again, if we had the traditional category where we didn't have to pick between these two, I wouldn't get in, but I'm wondering like maybe.
an interesting
Interesting.
choice, certainly.
Yeah.
I will say about Nickel Boys that even people who don't like it or it really doesn't work for them, I'm still not sure people are capable of mustering the kind of hate they can for other films. Like, I think it's still respectable. I don't think it's going to do well at the Globes. I think it'll peak later in award season, but I do think that it's harder to dislike that one, to be, I don't know, to be against it, whatever it is. I think that that one won't have as much. You can say like it's not for me, but I still respect it, whatever.
Yeah.
The two I have in here are films I also mentioned in our Oscar conversation that no one else was saying. One is The Room Next Door, which um, I don't really know at this point, but maybe, and September 5, which I think is a great ensemble piece and has an international component to it that might work well for Golden Globe voters. I don't think it will get any other nominations necessarily, but I do think that's a possibility. I do not feel secure about either of those. I think, Blitz I didn't really have on the list, but Blitz is probably going to get nominated, which is fine. I have no problems with Blitz. So we'll see about that. But in looking at our next category, which is drama actor, I also don't think it's that interesting. I think actress is much more interesting this year. I'm going with the same five people I said for the Oscars: Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet, Ray Fiennes, Coleman Domingo, and Daniel Craig. And then there are four names I have for the next slots: Paul Mescal for Gladiator 2, who feels like maybe, because also American Gangster got nominated for a whole bunch of Golden Globes, including Best Director. Like, it was up for a lot. Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, Kingsley Ben-Adir for Bob Marley, One Love, which is not a musical despite being about a musician, and Jarrell Jerome for Unstoppable, which
Mm.
who knows?
So out of those names, I feel like it's going to be someone who is more popular, because the Globes does feel more like a popularity contest. So I can see Sebastian Stan kind of getting that last slot.
Mhm.
That's what I would say.
What about Timothy Chalamet?
I said him. He's in.
Yeah.
Oh no,
I
I mean it as in like taking the win, not the
Oh, no, no, no.
yeah.
I like the way he's already like the thing, like, oh, I played the harmonica for 5 years. I'm like, okay, just get you like it's already going. I'm like seeing it. They're trying so desperately hard, and I'm like, just give it to him now.
I
I
mean,
mean,
Rami Malek, there's definitely a love for this kind of movie out there, so certainly possible.
yeah, and I think the Bob Dylan of it all, something that I've said a lot is that I think it crosses over the states. And that's something that I think is very, very important because when you're going for voters, there's a lot of different people who are going to vote for this. And he's just very well known across the globe. And I think that's something that's important.
Yep.
I think this will also, the Golden Globes will be a big test for the Brutalist to see how well it does, because I think everybody's been so gung ho about it, and I'm not sure that awards voters will be quite as into it. And I'm probably wrong. I'd love to be, but I think it will be an important test here just to see how well it fares, because it could easily miss some of the, director, some other things, and that wouldn't be a terrible sign. It would just be if it doesn't miss, again, like Nickel Boys or something, I think it's a very strong sign that it's getting it.
Well, that's an interesting point, Abe, because I think one thing that the Globes really like to do is like they like to predict who the Oscar frontrunners are going to be. And so maybe based on the buzz that The Brutalist is getting, they'll like throw a lot of love towards it to sort of anoint it as something and be like, look at us sort of crowning the Best Picture winner before. So like I wonder if that'll happen, and then I wonder if that'll be a benefit to The Brutalist or work against it in the end of like helping it peak too early, perhaps. I don't know. Good point.
Yeah.
Conclave and Wicked win. What a fun time we all had at the Globes. What a wonderful year it's gonna be. And then we get the Oscars and it's the Brutalist versus Denora and no one's having fun, you
Yep.
know?
Shall we?
I can see it. I can see it. Yeah.
Go ahead, Shadan. Let's move
Shall we
on.
move on? Yeah, to drama actress. Okay, so I have Angelina Jolie, for Maria, Nicole Kidman for Baby Girl, Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. Um, okay, I cheated here and I put two people because I couldn't pick. I put Saoirse Ronan for The Outrun and Tilda Swinton for The Room Next Door, but I'm gonna say Tilda feels stronger to me of those two. Marion Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths, and Pamela Anderson for The Last Showgirl, which I feel very strongly that she is gonna show up here. So those
Yes.
are my 6/7 people that I cheated there.
Listen, I'm with you. I think this is going to be Nicole Kidman is going to get a nom at the Golden Globes, and then she's going to say goodbye bye bye because it's not happening at the Oscars. This may be the one shot that Saoirse Ronan has, but I don't know if she's showing up in actress or supporting actress. But I do think she's going to show up in one of the categories. And
Yeah.
I don't really have anything else to add because I do think the Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here is actually going to get it because of the international voting audience. I think
Mhm.
she's going to like get nominated.
I to make it seem like I'm obsessed with the room next door, I have Julianne Moore also here. Um, I'm not. I just took it seriously in my predictions. Another name I've seen tossed around here is Kate Winslet for Lee, which is possible. I don't think it's go far, but she was nominated for Labor Day, as we all remember. So it's possible. The other one I have here, which again, I'm not really sure what Amazon MGM Studios is doing with this, Ryan Destiny for The Fire Inside. I think they have these two sports movies, The Fire Inside and Unstoppable, that could really appeal to a lot of people. And at the very least have very strong performances at their centers. And I know that that Stacey brought up J Lo for supporting actress in our last conversation. I don't think that's happening, but a Golden Globe nomination for acting seems perfectly possible.
Yeah. Right.
Nominating Kate Winslet for Lee would be the most Golden Globes things that the Golden Globes have ever done. So actually, that's like a great prediction.
It's true. It's true. All right, jumping over to supporting actor, which is not in a comedy or musical, but is all encompassing, is Karen Culkin, Denzel Washington, Guy Pearce, Jonathan Bailey, and I am going to go with, I think Jeremy Strong is actually going to get in for this. And I will go with my last choice. I'm actually, because he's very personable, I'm going to go with Adam Pearson.
Not sure Adam Pearson will peak this early. That said, it's possible getting nominated with Sebastian Stan could be great. We didn't say Clarence Macklin, who I know we all love, and we're not sure what's going to happen with that. And you also didn't say Stanley Tucci, who we also didn't have in our Oscar
Mhm.
predictions initially. But Stanley Tucci
Oh,
is a pretty likable guy in a very
he is a
Globes friendly movie.
Yes, he is a very likable guy. I also feel like this category for me, Guy Pearce, like I feel like if the Brutalist is gonna take home anything at the Globes, it just might be in this category with Guy Pearce.
Although
Yeah.
Kieran versus Denzel versus Guy, that's a pretty serious face-off, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Um, I also, because go ahead, Shadan.
I was gonna say, because we know that the Globes love a name, do we think that Edward Norton could pop up here for A Complete Unknown?
Yes,
Um,
yes, yes.
Yeah,
It really depends on
oh.
how that movie is. And I mean, it is officially going is now the last of the awards movies to screen, which
Mhm.
is I don't know, a good thing, bad thing, because that was kind of the Color Purple last year, and we saw what happened with Color Purple. It wound up being a one actress pony, and we already know that's going to be Timothy across the board.
Mhm.
right. Yeah. I will echo again Jonathan Bailey because I think that Will Ferrell for the producers was nominated. Like there's certain this is the right award show for this. I do not think he can go all the way to Oscars. That said, if the film is wonderfully embraced, you never know. He's an easier sell than someone like Clarence Macklin, like in terms of popular appeal. One is a very, very different performance, and I think Clarence will get in ultimately, but yeah, that's
I
definitely
wonder. I mean, Denzel Washington's is the best part of Gladiator. I don't know if everyone's seen it, but I would argue that he's probably one of the highlights, just mainly because I think he understands what the assignment was in the movie and is sort of having fun with it and playing up the insane of the movie. Where I'm not quite sure, like Paul got the same message of it. Like I think that's my biggest problem with Gladiator in general is that I don't know if all the actors understood what kind of movie they were making. There were some performances that were way too serious, and then other performances that were way too silly. So it was very hard to gauge a reaction from that movie for me when it came to the performances.
Yeah. People tend to have a lot of mixed feelings about it. I think it did what it was supposed to do, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it's like there's all this talking about it and all this buzz about it, if it did get a lot of snubs. Like it could end up being that movie. Denzel, I could see kind of being the one guy to pull it out, but does it match? I think there's a lot of like take it or leave it opinions about Gladiator 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And normally I would actually even throw in like a Pedro Pascal in this, but I think his buzz in this movie is so like non-existent
Mhm.
that, it's not even there because he's in the movie for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
I
It's
know we
wild though,
also
right?
yeah.
oh yeah. We also didn't mention one of Shadon's picks for supporting actor at the Oscars here, and that's Borso for Honora. But it seems like we're thinking Honora is not going to be like Golden Globe fun, and that's going to maybe come back a little bit later.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, do you want to take us to supporting actress?
Oh, supporting actress. Okay, let's see. Where are we? Best supporting actress. Okay, Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez. I think she will go up against Selena Gomez. I think also Ariana Grande for Wicked, Margaret Qualley for The Substance, Saoirse Ronan for Blitz. How many do I have there? Do I one more?
One more.
Ingenue Ellis Taylor for Nickel Boys. It's
I think this is going to be the one time that Selena Gomez gets nominated in one of the major shows.
yeah.
I don't think she's going to carry on to the Oscars, unfortunately. But I do think she's going to get the Globe nom. I
Totally.
feel very, very strongly. She just did something the other day. I think she went to with Feinberg. She went to the campus at Chapman University and actually spoke in front of like a film class.
Um,
So she's been really kind of going above and beyond and really kind of playing up the, the
yeah.
good role of a celebrity and kind of giving back because she also went to the high school when she was in Telluride. So I think her good word of mouth and her generosity is going to kind of really appeal to voters too. And I think that's actually speaking more in terms of like voting than maybe even the
Mhm.
performances. It's just kind of like how much are these people going to be out there and what are they doing to stay in the conversation?
Yeah.
Um, but I'm with I know, sorry, Siri, you're kind of probably with me with this, but I'm almost wondering if Ariana Grande will take this away from Zoe Saldana now
Yeah.
at this point.
Yep. I absolutely think so. I just
Now,
I
yeah.
would have said, I feel like a couple of weeks ago I would have said Zoe hands down, but just in this category, like I'm happy to see or hope that like Selena would get the nom, along with her first Emmy nom. I don't think, and even with all the campaigning, and she has been so wonderful. I again, like, yeah, I just see, especially at the Globes, I just see Wicked being this really, this is the movie that everybody needs, and Ariana Grande, like, yeah, I definitely, I
And like
think,
imagine the headlines, right? Of like the surprise of the night, Ariana Grande wins like her first acting award for Wicked. Like I just
yeah,
feel like it's gonna be a moment. Did you mention Isabella Rossellini for
I did.
Conclave?
I didn't. She's on my list, but yeah, if it's
So
hard if I'm narrowing it down to six. Yeah.
yeah, she's not like a performer that I'm hugely like crazy about just in terms of getting in at the Oscars, but it does feel like it could be a Globes thing just because she's an international icon. Like maybe she shows
Yeah.
up here.
She's
D-
great. I mean, I
Yeah.
just think there's so much competition this year,
Also,
though.
such a brief role,
Yeah.
Right, but I just
especially
feel like
considering how much the other men are in it so much the whole time.
I completely agree, but I just feel like the name recognition and the Globes and I just feel like if it just seems like a Globesy thing to do. And like great call on Margaret Qualley because I did not have that on
Yeah.
my radar, but now I'm like that's definitely gonna happen. So
I think if the substance gets snubbed in a lot of these categories, it's in trouble because this is the time for it to build early momentum. You did not say Danielle Deadweiler,
I
right?
did it. I did it.
See,
I
that
know.
worries me because even after getting in with precursors for Till, she still got snubbed.
Yeah.
I think The Piano Lesson is a great film that I was just discussing with someone I interviewed today about how I haven't heard enough about it, and I would hope she can get in. But as Scott has pointed out many times, Netflix is busy. Netflix has a lot of things, and
Mhm.
even though Emilia Perez seems to be getting a lot of backlash recently, which I do not think will impact his chances, because we can say what we like and people can say what they like, and that's not always what awards voters do. See Rami Malek winning for Bohemian Rhapsody, which most people decry as a
Mhm.
terrible win. Doesn't matter. Still won best
Yep.
editing. These things still happen. We also didn't say Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, who I don't have in my predictions, but I have very close. And I will continue to say Joan Chen for Dee Dee,
Oh, Dee.
which
Yeah.
would be a fun surprise in comedy picture here, comedy musical. I don't really see it, but I think what a lovely inclusion that
I
might be.
know.
if we're throwing out something that could like be Globes and nowhere else, what about Jamie Lee Curtis for The Last Showgirl? Because I
Oh,
feel like she's, I feel, and this is a controversial opinion, I like her performance more in The Last Showgirl more than the one that she won the Oscar for.
yeah.
But I just feel like if, I mean, Globes love their Nepo babies and they love their stars, and it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for me, is all I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. I just think The Last Showgirl is so much Pamela Anderson showcase. I also feel it's sort of late breaking, like the release and everything. I don't know. I don't think they're doing enough for that, and I think it's just going to be her. If anyone was to do it, though, Jamie Lee Curtis would be the kind of person who could. So it's not a bad call. It's a risk. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think she's been kind of staying low key, and I know she's going to film stuff very soon. So it's like this is like the key time in the next like 2 to 3 weeks who's really campaigning hard. I think people forget about that quite often. Like it really sort of, it's not so much the stuff that happens in December because that's when all the nominations are already out. And I know they like always push those 2 or 3 weeks before Christmas, but I really feel it's November and it's been sort of quiet overall. And I don't know. And that's again, I think that's why was as Siri pointed out, like there's a lot of talk about Wicked, there's a lot of talk about Gladiator. They're putting
Mhm.
those people out there front and center. And Substance, to their credit, I don't know if you guys got the invite, but they're doing this big push in the next 2 weeks about the Substance, and I think that's a smart move on their part. And I think getting Demi Moore out there
Mhm.
is going to be a smart move.
Yeah. Yeah. She's
Let's
also, she
yeah.
was just at the Landman premiere. She's in Landman. So she was just at the premiere last night. So she's out there. She's, so yeah, I agree. Smart.
I want to take us over to screenplay briefly, and maybe we can wrap up with director. We're going to save animated and international for a more focused conversation, which I hope will be exciting. I'm sure it will.
Mhm.
Those are always categories that I have to sort of investigate later. I'm like, what? I forgot to see all these movies. Then the end of the year sort of rush. Screenplay is interesting because it's not original or adapted. It's just one field, just because Golden Globes have different, all these different things. And usually I would look to the drama nominees, but I'm not optimistic. I think Conclave and probably The Brutalist, but I think that's it. I don't think Gladiator 2 is getting a nomination. Dune Part 2, not these films. I think Honora is. I think A Real Pain is. I think maybe probably Amelia Perez. And then I would actually say The Substance might be a fun sixth choice because it's certainly a clever script. I also think Saturday Night Challengers, are possibilities. I'm really not sure what to make of this. Shadan, you seem to have some feelings.
No, I was just really surprised that you are feel that strongly about Jesse Eisenberg. Potentially, that's interesting.
I think there's something about being behind your own film that way, and I think that it's not a big movie, but it's a well-written movie, and it's a movie that really is the writing and the acting. It's not especially cinematic. It's not, no big gladiator action scenes and other stuff, no big musical numbers. And so that's one part where you can really appreciate the screenplay for what it is and how much it really, elevates the film. I think even if it doesn't, it will get nominated, I think, for Best Picture, but even if it didn't, like I think a screenplay nomination might still be possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really thinking about the screenplays this year, and I don't know how everyone feels about this. I would say this is a very weak category in general. I would say a lot of the movies actually struggled with strong scripts this year. And I'm going to actually toss Hitman into this for a screenplay because I did think it was very well written and it was quite funny. Um, but I mean, I that's what I think Real Pain has the strongest script of the year. I don't know if anyone agrees with me on that, but I really think that it's that and Conclave. I think that the writing in Conclave is very, very sharp.
What about Amelia Perez?
No,
Really?
no. I mean, I don't
I
think so, but
Yes, in many ways, because it is like the writing is not just the screenplay, it's also the songs.
Mhm.
I know that that's something that some people have mixed feelings on. That said, if we think Golden Globe voters are embracing it, they're not just gonna be like, oh, we sort of like it. We'll give it three acting nominations, Best Picture, Best Director, but maybe hold like I think they're gonna fully embrace this if they're gonna embrace it at all. So
Interesting.
Abe, this is what I'm going to throw in your movie right now. I think The Room Next Door has a good script.
I didn't even have it. Would you imagine? I didn't even have it on the list.
Yes, I would actually say that has a very good script.
I did not make the movie. I'm not the screenwriter. But yes, that is a good call, I think. And I mean, Pedro usually does pretty well. It's weird because like the Oscars talked to her like it was a different like there's so of international releases and everything. It's very hard to track. But I think I think Broken Embraces was nominated for Best Foreign Film. Like there's definitely some enthusiasm for Almodovar that could really come over here pretty
Well, let's talk about just quickly like the non or international screenplays. Like what about something like All We Imagine Is Light or again Blitz potentially, Seed of the Sacred Fig. Like are there any international contenders that I'm Still Here?
I I don't think those tend to do. I don't think Golden Globe. I mean, I'd have to look carefully at it. But I don't think Golden Globes tend to, for screenplay, embrace international features. I think All We Imagine Is Light is not a country submission, right? It's not an Oscar
No.
submission. So I think that could definitely get nominated for international feature at the Globes and probably will. But I think that will be it. I think an actress nomination for an Almodovar film is like, or Walter Salles, like that's probably the likeliest that we would get. I would be genuinely surprised and excited to see a screenplay nomination for a non-English film besides Million Dress.
Yeah. I mean, Nickel Boys in this category, maybe too.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting,
Maybe.
interesting.
Mhm.
Well, let's wrap up with a look at director, which again I think will be drawn a lot more from comedy, musical than from drama. Although maybe that's not because who wants to get us started on this?
I
Well,
mean,
I don't. Oh, go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Scott.
Shadan. No, no, no.
No,
I
no.
talk too much. You go.
I was gonna say I don't feel confident in this at all, but two people that I think may potentially show up at the Globes and not be necessarily Oscar contenders. One is maybe John M. Chu. Like if you're gonna go big on Wicked, I could see him show up here. And then I don't know how to pronounce her last name because I suck at French stuff, but the director of The Substance. Like I think it's looking very male this year, as we discussed last time. And I think the Globes are gonna go big on The Substance, and I just see her getting in. Is it Caroline Farage?
It's Coralie is the first name, and we will have definitive pronunciation for everyone watching next time. If you're watching all of our videos to the very end, stick around for a quick tutorial at the end of the next one.
But
Um,
I just feel like that could be a very Globes thing to do to nominate her.
Yes, she
Yeah.
deserves it though. The movie, that's really a well-directed film.
what about Jason Reitman for Saturday Night? Is that a possibility? I know that he's likable, and I think we're really not sure what's happening with Saturday Night. I know we're going to have
Yeah.
a few exciting interviews coming soon to Awards Buzz involving some of the ensemble cast. And a SAG nomination would certainly go a long way, but I think the general opinion is that Saturday Night seems to sort of have fallen out after a really strong festival start.
I mean, you talk about screenplay. That I'm sorry, I forgot about that. I would
Yeah.
actually put that in there. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that has a really sharp screenplay, and talk about capturing the history in one night. Like it's really great.
Yeah.
But I don't think director. I don't,
I
unfortunately.
mean, we're talking, we have Nora, Sean Baker is probably in. We have Conclave, we have The Brutalist, despite my, potential that it might not be there. Let's say we have Wiki, probably have Emilia Perez.
Mhm.
You're wrong on The Brutalist, Abe, and I'm going to tell you why. Because again, you're forgetting about the voters. This is an international voting base, and one of the things that they focus on is filmmaking. And whether or not you like The Brutalist or not, the one thing you have to give it credit for is how strongly it's directed.
Oh, I still
And
think it's
that's,
getting in. I'm just saying it's always possible that it won't be embraced as strongly. I'm still all predicting it. I don't know about Felicity Jones, but yes, I would say
yeah,
it's.
Felicity Jones is the one person who I'm kind of like, nah.
Well, and
I would
actually,
also, yeah.
Scott, we should say, like, I think The Brutalist could potentially do really well at the Globes because if you think about the message of the film, which is like the American dream and how hard it is to like make it in America, who is that going to appeal more to than a Golden Globes voter?
Yeah,
And
100%.
we also want to remember Gladiator 2 and Dune Part 2 for directing, that even if they're
Mhm.
not present other places. I'm not sure about Dune Part 2 because it's not like a Golden Globes, you're not gonna have acting nominations,
But
etc. But
it's Denny. Like
yeah.
that.
People love Denny. Yeah.
Yeah,
But he
yeah.
wasn't nominated for Arrival. He didn't
No,
come to that
but
as only an Oscar nomination.
and that
So
could be again like why he's celebrated here. People love him and Dune. So
And I'm big on Blitz. I think Steve McQueen could show up here.
it is pretty crazy that 12 Years a Slave did as well as it did, and then he didn't really win anything because Gravity was there that year. So that said, I have not seen overly favorable takes of Blitz. I do think the directing is one of the strongest parts, and I would totally be in there. I don't know that the screenplay is something that I would recognize, or our voters would, but I do think picture, director, supporting actress, score, whatever. Like I think there's definitely plenty of opportunity for it, and we will come back categories in the future. We're also only a little over a month away from our short list for the Oscars. I think there's a lot to think. I don't think we're so cohesive on what we said here. I think we're all excited about the substance and Wicked, hoping that will happen. Um, and not really sure. We're still waiting for a complete unknown to see what's going to happen and
Yeah.
how a lot we can make that joke that it's still a complete unknown to all of us.
Until next
So
week. Until next week, then we can
yes,
finally say. We can finally
that's
say.
true. And I think we also I don't think there's any chance that Sing Sing gets nominated for Best Director at the Golden Globes, but I think that's one that I Sing Sing and Danielle Deadweiler for The Piano Lesson. I really want to make sure. I don't believe that us predicting something is going to change the fate of everything. I think that us talking about it is important and good, but those are two films that I would love to see really show up at the Golden Globes. And I would be a little worried if they just completely forgotten because the as we mentioned last time, the Gotham Award nominations are really a lot more mainstream than they've been in the past. And we have a lot of people who could actually just get nominated for Oscars straight from that list, which is not common. So we are excited for more and hope that you will be too. We will certainly return. We always just, because the only reason we don't come back more often is we're all too busy doing interviews and watching movies. So there's no time to get together just for this kind of stuff. We'll make sure we have Stacey with us next time also.
Abe, let me ask a fun closing question, and then we can end on this note. So, out of all the movies that are currently in the competition, which movie do you think is going, because there always tends to be one, which movie this year do you think is going to get a ton of nominations and is going to go home with 0 at the Oscars?
Good question. We always have to think about like certain categories that could be. I don't actually see the substance winning anything. I'm not sure that I mean, I guess makeup it's possible and likely, so maybe that's a bad call. But I think that's a film that could do very well and still not win anything. But as I look at all this, I feel like everything's got a little bit of something in there, score for Conclave, if nothing else. Like there's just a few little things that could happen. So I have no firm answer for you.
I'm going to say Gladiator 2.
Oh, you took mine, Scott. That was gonna be mine. I think that's gonna be like a tech player that gets a bunch of nominations and then a goose egg.
Yeah. Or the Brutalist, I feel like, could be.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like it
Wow.
could be. I know, because it's a lot. It's one of those that I feel like it's a heavy favorite, but it could sadly not be what people want right now.
I
Want to
also
ingest right
think
now.
Dune Part 2 and Wicked are going to duel it out in most of the tech categories, which means Gladiator isn't necessarily going to win anything there. I think Kieran Culkin and Denzel Washington could easily knock Guy Pearce out. And if we're talking about Timothy Chalamet, even Ray Fine, or Coleman Domingo, Adrian Brody doesn't win, and sure, Brady Corbett maybe wins Best Director, but I think that is, even though you will not be surprised to hear me say that, given what I've been saying, this whole conversation, I think that is certainly a possibility. And we've seen most years recently where many films didn't win anything, and I think this year could be a little more distributed, which would be interesting.
Yeah. I also do wonder, like, the Gladiator 2 pick that I just said could also apply to Dune Part 2 because of the fact that it won so many categories in Dune, like when the first one came out, that it could be here, and then people can just be like, "Oh, we already gave it to that." Because the only category that I'm kind of thinking that Gladiator would win if it wins anything would be Denzel, just because of like the popularity of him and the power of him. But I don't think visually, I mean, the movie, it doesn't look that great. Um,
I also think we're getting Dune Part 3, and that's another thing that could happen.
Yeah.
I think we might also be getting Gladiator 3, but that
oh
could be
God.
24 years. That could be 24 years away. So Ridley Scott probably won't be directing that one. I hope he'll still be alive at 109 or whatever. But or
If that movie makes $600 million, you realize that movie has to make $600 million in order to break even because the budget's $300 million.
Well, we hope to have 600 million views on this video by
Wow.
the time the Golden Globes air. And we have to sign off because half of us have to head back to press junkets for the day. But thank you so much for being here. Subscribe and tell 599 million of your friends, and we'll get lots of great hits on here. And always
Deserve
appreciate
a
the
Golden
conversation.
Globe for that transition, Abe.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll see you soon, everyone.
Bravo.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.